lucky to be here today at Candle 79 in New York City. And I'm here with one of my favorite people in the entire world. He doesn't know that, but he is. He's one of my favorite people in the entire world,
Thank
Bart
you.
Potenza. Bart's the owner of Candle 79 and also the Candle Cafe and Candle Cafe West. Now, the thing about this, Bart, is that, like, I know, you're so successful as a businessman. And, we can talk about the restaurants. I absolutely want to talk about the food and the restaurants and everything. But really the reason why I'm here today and the reason why I asked you to be here with me is because I want to talk about your success as a human being. Because you have this thing about you that, when I was doing my internship here, I only met you probably 3 times. And it was so brief. But you made such an impact on me because
Thank you.
you'd walk in and, this huge smile. And the thing about you that I find so amazing is that you have this ability to, just upon meeting someone, whether they're the person sweeping the floor in the back of the restaurant, whether they're washing the dishes, or whether they're one of the celebrities that are in your restaurants, many of them, including Bill Clinton and
sure.
amongst others,
Yeah.
Paul McCartney.
Right.
But whether you're that person in the back doing the work or whatever, you make everyone feel like the celebrity that is in your restaurant. And I find, that gives people such a feeling of value. You give people a feeling of worth when you meet them. And I've only met a few people in my life that I could actually say that about and that would keep with me. I mean, it was 4 years ago when I met you. And you stayed with me all
Wow.
of that time because of that. That ability that I really believe is the greatest gift that you can give to another human being is to make them feel like they are of worth.
Right.
And you do it so well. So that's why I was excited to talk to you. But
Let's take it to Hollywood.
yeah, but how did you evolve into that person? I mean, were you like the little boy in the neighborhood that was running around saving kittens and like being really compassionate?
A little bit of that then.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't as conscious about those things as I feel I am now, being vegan about 20 years. And I think a lot of it had to do with, I worked with a lot of people who I called mentors growing up as a kid. And my first job, when I think back of my history, was like at 16 years old. I would work it in between baseball games when I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. But I always enjoyed mentorship from older, what I'll call bosses at the time. And I had several of them through the years, from everyone from the guy who ran the grocery to, my major was marketing and advertising back in my college days. I'm talking, can't believe it, almost 50 years ago. But I always had a good ear for perhaps what you picked up on about how to be effective, and I guess it was intuitive for me as well. And I kind of enjoyed it as from the standpoint of a reciprocal feeling that we create with someone if you be here. And thank you for the acknowledgement, but it came naturally. I hope it's coming naturally now as well, because I felt pretty secure about myself in that process. As scary as it was sometimes in the beginning, we're doing this in our 30th year now, and in the very early stages, when I say which is Joy's included in 99% of that, because we met while I was in the business already. It's quite a frightening experience opening restaurants, and there's a fear factor there, and how you're going to pay the bills and all that kind of thing.
Well, and that's exactly what I want to address with you. Like, the reason I'm here right now is I wanted to ask you this question. Okay, so let's paint the picture. So you're about 56 years old. You decide you're going to open a vegan restaurant. Now, you had been in the business
another 10
about 10...
backwards on that, 46 years old.
Okay, so but that was more vegetarian and smoothies and supplements.
A little snack bar, basically.
Right,
Yeah.
so then you decide, okay, I'm going to actually have a restaurant. It's going to be vegan. I'm in probably the most competitive market in the world, where restaurants go out of business 50% of the time in their first year or two. I don't have a whole lot of money. I need about $300,000. And I'm going to be indebted to friends and family and other people.
You got it.
At 56. Terrifying.
Yeah.
How did you push through the fear and actually make it happen? That's what I want to teach people. That's what I want to know. Please tell me.
Well, I guess I have to use the integrity word, Joy, and I felt, the minute I owe money to anyone, I work very hard at whatever I'm doing to make sure they get their due back,
Sure.
So we did indeed, I don't know, the background, you seem to know a lot of the background story here, but actually we're going back 30 years when we started. And I would have been more like 46.
Okay.
But we had the good luck of winning the lottery. Did you hear that story?
Yes, divine intervention.
In 1993, we won $53,000 in the New York lottery. And that became the seed money for the Candle Cafe. You kind of include the fear in the process anyway, meaning is the old cliche of making the pearl from the oyster, with the irritation makes the pearl, as they say. But I think the other part I was thinking about when we were talking about this a minute ago was that it always felt good in my body. Anyway, it just physically felt good to me. So for the mental and the physical were both working. It wasn't only like what you would say, a head trip for me. The motivation for me is that I've been really lucky. I'm an early riser anyway. And in those days, in the early days, we would be up at 4 or 5 in the morning, putting in 15, 16-hour days, and then flipping it out and come back and doing it again.
But I imagine it didn't feel like work for you though, because you
Right,
enjoyed
I mean,
it so
tired
much.
was tired no matter what. In those days, I closed on Sunday, so Sunday was kind of an R&R kind of day, and that's what I meant joy in that era. So I also loved the subject. I mean, the subject I was dealing with food and nutrition and health. In the early days, we were all pretty much into vitamins and supplements and allergies and all. I mean, it's still part of the food thing we deal with. We deal a lot with gluten-free these days, as you know, and allergies and so on. So I was curious enough to want to keep learning. So that thing that you observed about me, which I adore you for sharing that, is that I guess my excitement about what I was doing kind of spread.
Well, and I think that's, my whole thing is about awareness and being aware. And I think if you really try to focus yourself every day about exactly what's going on around you, the people around you, what their circumstances are, and you're so much more present.
Right.
And I think you pick up on it because you make a conscious effort to be aware of every single thing that's going on. And then that's also when you see the opportunities coming that maybe if you were living in a very hectic, unaware kind of state, you wouldn't see them.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have the feeling like, let me play the lottery today. Now, did you have a family member that was sort of a mentor for you, somebody that stuck out kind of above everybody else?
I wish I could say that. Well, in one category, I will say, I did make homemade wine with my uncle and grandfather. So to this day, when I drink a red wine, which I absolutely love,
Me too.
I have tactile memory back to that experience. Be every fall, like this time of year, I put on a special shirt and help press the wines and stuff.
Right.
And they would do it in the basement. They would just bring the wine and fairly common in the Italian-American households.
Now, my other grandfather was French, and he was the winemaker. He made port wines.
Wow.
He made port wines in his basement, and we'd come out of the basement as children,
Oh,
just
my God,
just
that's
tasting. So you could taste
fantastic.
it.
Wow.
But yeah, he actually won awards at the New York State Fair for his
Fantastic.
port wine. So he was really into it. It was great. I have one of the last bottles in existence. so
Fantastic. I love
that's
stories like that.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I'm most attracted at this stage of our profession about the farmers and the vineyards. Joy and I were invited to a family in Napa. I've never been to Napa. And anyway, they specialize in olive oil and small batches of wines. And
Yeah, and
actually,
I'm really-
one came in from the province of my Italian heritage, Potenza,
Right.
the family name from the province of Basilicata. And we had a white wine here from there and a red wine at West Side.
See, and that's
from that
exciting
province.
because
Yeah.
you're sharing who you are with all of your
It
diners.
shows up.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Somebody used that cliche years ago. Life shows up even when you're not thinking about it.
It's true.
You talk about adapting. I'm playing with this intuitive thing, moment to moment. Like even now, we don't know what's going to happen here in this conversation, but
Right,
we're
but it's fun,
jumping
isn't
around.
it?
Yes.
I
Back
think-
to you, Brandy.
I think it's better that way. Life
Yeah.
is more fun that way. But,
Exactly.
but I think when you're aware, you pick up on more opportunities and more fun
Exactly.
stuff. So Bart, we talked about all kinds of personal things and all kinds of fun stories and stuff, but let's talk about the restaurant now.
Okay.
Now, the thing that impresses me most about the restaurant, of course, you have the vegan cuisine and it's so fresh and so delicious and so healthful, but you do so many other things also that many, many restaurants anywhere
Right.
don't do, sustainability-wise, etc. Can you tell me about some of those things that you do that are
Sure.
different?
Well, it was a natural marriage for me in the beginning. I think my team didn't quite go there with me at first, but now they're very embraced, meaning animal rights. We're one of the first green restaurants in America. We recycle, we compost, we feed firemen. And we're very engaged with all the animal rights people and movements, the Farm Sanctuary, PETA, Woodstock Sanctuary, Catskill. On a given day, my desk is full of appeals. It could be anywhere from saving the monkeys with Jane Goodall to the chimpanzees or saving the whales type of thing. Again, back to our early conversation, it was very intuitive to go there for me. We joined something called Co-op America years ago, which became Green America. They do all the green festivals around the country. They did one in Chicago, they do them in New York, they do them all over the place. And why did I go there? It was a very compatible thing to be with. Being a organic vegan restaurant, I kind of belonged with that group. And they were mutually supportive. They've held events with us. The other thing that happened here was that since we opened bigger restaurants, we now do major catering. We do weddings, we do book signing parties. We couldn't do that in the early days. It only comes about because I think we We love the network. When I say the network, it includes all the things you mentioned, the green piece, the animal right piece, the Save the Planet piece, whatever it is. Joy's big thing, which I'm part of too, is the Healthy School Lunch Program in New York City. It's officially a vegetarian public school in Queens now. Public School 244, they're getting a lot of press. It's totally vegetarian. Now, we train chefs in various schools in uptown New York and the Harlem area. So that again is, I don't know, a natural thing for us. It's nothing that we have to think about. We get these requests, by the way. We do have to, after a while, break it down. We can only do so much. Yeah.
But you compost here, you recycle
Well, we separate our
everything.
compost. We have a certain specialist garbage, rubbish removal, and they break it out. I mean, they have a separate section for the cardboard, for the wet garbage, and the compost, as they call it. You know.
Now, when it comes to stuff like that, why do you think that those sorts of steps are so important to changing this climate?
Oh, I feel that as a restaurant, we create a lot of rubbish, so I feel particularly good about having it assigned, hopefully the proper, dumping sites. In my home, where I live in Connecticut part-time, you have the basic separation of your glassware and so on, and your rubbish, but this is a lot of rubbish for everybody. I mean, there's 18,000 restaurants in New York.
Sure.
In fact, we made such an impact with it that the people from Mario Batali's restaurant, Del Posto, met with me early on, about 4 years ago by now, to find out how we did it so that they could do it.
Wonderful.
So it's that old 100th monkey theory, where you start something, someone else gets.
Eventually, everybody gets it, right.
I think impact is important. Go back, I keep thinking of the early part of our conversation. When you do something, you really have to back it up with your commitment and with your actual doing it, because we
Right.
can all speak it, but if you don't do it.
Well, exactly. And I think, the way that I kind of think about it is I feel like there's a line. And on this side, there are the people who really want to do things but don't and regret. And then there's the people who can push through this fear,
Right.
get to the other side, and they're the doers. And my big question to ask people like you is, how do you burrow through the wall
Sure.
of fear? And I think that you've done such a great job with that. You set such a great example to everybody, and like you said, now you're committed to the work, and the work sort of just does itself.
And you
because it's such a
attract people who share your commitment, hopefully, too. That's a big thing.
Exactly. Well, look, we have this amazing food in front of us. Let's talk some food now.
Okay.
Okay.
We enjoy eating around here.
All right. Well, so now you're the owner of the restaurant. Tell me what we're eating here.
Well, I'm happy to say, amongst all the things we do at the 3 candles now, Candle Cafe, Candle 79, and Candle Cafe West, seitan is one of our signature items. We use it in many forms. It's wheat gluten. It emulates meat a lot. So people who are not familiar with vegan or vegetarian, very often they'll eat it and think they're eating meat.
Yeah.
Of course, we tell them the truth about that. In fact, 80% of our customers are not vegetarian. They just love the food.
Right.
And so we're happy about that, too.
Yeah.
We do what's called seasonal as well. We try to address the classic 4 seasons, like Vivaldi's 4 seasons. No, summer, fall, winter, spring. So right now, the ravioli of the season is stuffed with squash, butternut squash.
Right.
Another season, it might be stuffed with spinach or something like that. Along with that is, I'm happy to say, we are feeding a 4th generation of customers now. So the people who are loyal to this, and this way I've noticed a difference in their personal lives, and they become like spokespeople for us. They're out in the world telling their family, friends, loved ones, and so on. I said earlier, it's a very women-driven business, but more and more men come in.
That's good.
And the area we're in now is surrounded by hospitals, and some of my best customers are the doctors in the area.
Sure.
I always get fascinated. One of our longtime friends and customers is a heart transplant doctor. So can imagine what he sees in the human body.
Absolutely.
He knows that.
And he comes right in here.
Yeah, and I can't say it's only one thing that'll do it, And by the way, we've opened up the venue, which you said earlier about making it a fine dining experience. All of our restaurants have fine wines and organic beers, and 2 out of 3 have echo bars with classic alcohol and amazing drinks. So people can come in and have a full dining experience. And I think that's why we took it to another level. There's very few who are doing it that way. We didn't, in the early days, we were a classic hippie rice and beans joint,
Right.
A macro plate was your basic thing. To this day, I still like that food, though. But now you can enjoy what I call international cuisine. You're going to taste something on a given day, Moroccan, Indian, Italian, Mexican. So that the spice rack in our kitchens is as big as anything. Because how you flavor the food is really,
Oh, it's
I think
everything.
you can almost smell it as we're talking
Yeah.
around it, right?
Yeah, it smells so great. And I can
Very
smell.
inspiring. Then it's rounded out with, you met Jorge, one of our head chefs and partners, and he he rounds it all out with great desserts. And it's another thing. I mean, one of the cliches we use and have heard often, it's harder to change people's food habits than their religion or politics. That's how inbred food is. Well,
Why is
culturally,
that?
well, culturally, I don't know. I guess you can't take pasta away from Italian.
That's true.
Exactly.
I'd fight you for it.
But it's got, I guess it's tied up with mommy and daddy in a way, like, well, my mama fed me that way. What are you telling me, not to eat that now or whatever? And men with the steak, you know, they got
Yeah.
macho men.
Well, and like, as a person who's into animal activism and concern for animals,
Uh-huh.
why do you think people get so offended? I've had conversations about being vegan with people. They get angry at me for bringing up this topic. Why do you
Right.
think that is?
Yeah, it's a good point. We've heard that before too. Well, kind of what I just said just now, because the food thing is so bit deep
Yeah.
in people. You might as well be taking away their firstborn instead
Right.
of telling them they can't eat whatever their favorite is. I think the reason Joy and I mainly became vegan, we saw what goes on with the animals.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it, Brandy, I have to say that, but see, no one drops dead when they eat bad food. It's not like someone eats a bad meal and falls on the floor. It takes 10, 20, 30 years for the cancers to develop, the heart
Heart
attacks and that kind of
blockages,
thing.
yeah.
So people made that connection, you know, like old cliche, Harry met Sally. It happened to be on the other day, and we turned right into that scene. You know, I'll eat what she's eating.
Right.
People don't make the connection that what they're eating is affecting their health, and you know,
Well,
the
they make it-
obesity and all that stuff.
They
going
make
on.
it when they get the heart attack, or they make it
Exactly.
when they have the
That's when we get the men
diabetes.
in, the low salt diets.
Yeah,
and
then
so
they
on.
come in
Yeah.
hardcore.
Right.
You know, but
Right.
nobody believes that they're going to get sick from what they're eating.
Without a
until
doubt, without
that
a doubt. And this is
hammer
what we
drops.
call a lifestyle choice, which you're addressing. This
Exactly.
is what it is. I mean, people who are into this tend to be into New Age stuff too, and yoga, and you know, they're concerned about what they wear, how they design their homes, and such like. You know, take the green movement all the way.
Right, but I think it's becoming so much more mainstream, which is what my mission is to do, is
Thank
make it
you, it
mainstream.
is. It
Because I
is.
mean, you have Bill Clinton, who's now pretty
Yeah,
much vegan.
uh-huh,
So I mean,
uh-huh.
if someone like Bill Clinton, you know,
It came out of a heart thing too, but we'll
Yeah,
take
he
it.
was diagnosed with heart
He had
problems.
open heart surgery, quadruple, I think.
so you know, more and more people who are very well-known public figures
Right.
are saying, hey, you know, I'm really seeing the connection between my health and what I'm
Exactly,
eating, and I'm
exactly.
just not going to eat this way
Right,
anymore
right.
because I want to live.
It has dramatic results in people's lives when they first change from what I'll call a meat-centric diet to, I'll call it vegetarian, maybe to vegan. A lot of people think we're behind the times because they're eating raw. You know, there's a
Right.
whole other story we can do another day about
Exactly.
that.
But no, it's true. You know, my grandfather, he lived to be 93 years old. Every day of his life, he ate bacon and eggs and all that stuff.
We know
you
those stories, but that's what makes it hard.
But that's,
because-
exactly, it makes it harder because people come to me and they're like, well, my grandfather, and I can't,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I
I
don't know,
know.
but he had genetics, but he also,
Well, I'll
you
give
know
you
what?
one. Just say it improves the odds of health and well-being.
That's very true.
When you eat better and well, I'm not saying you have to eat only our food, or
Right.
we like to think of it as being vegan, but it could, you know, the
Just the
vegetarian
health
piece.
consciousness.
People had the hardest time giving up cheese and eggs and fish. We call them pescatarians, you know.
Sure.
But I think once you experience it up close, as we did, we went to one of the sanctuaries with the animals and you're petting pigs, and
Yeah.
you finally make the connection that, hey, how can I really eat that thing?
Well, that animal
You know.
feels something.
Right.
That animal feels pain. That
Exactly,
animal feels suffering.
exactly.
And once you kind of, click into that, it makes it much more hard,
For
much
sure.
more difficult to,
For sure.
to,
Yeah.
to support those types of industries.
Exactly.
You know, like
Yeah.
with me, I'm always, I do the best I can. And the way that I lead people is I want to lead people completely away from the factory farm. You know, they don't need to become vegan. I wish that they would, but
Right.
they don't have to because not everybody can make that transition. But at least get out of the factory farm and let's get back to the farm. So at least if an animal lives a healthy, happy, kind of life, for me, it's more about the suffering. So, I at least, if they can't come all the way over
Right.
for us, I at least say, come over here to where
Right,
this farm
exactly.
exists, where you can get an organic, grass-fed, well cared for,
Sure.
kind of,
Without a doubt.
thing.
And once they
that's-
get it, they become the biggest advocates in some ways. They learn more and teach more. I think Paul McCartney was the one who said if they had glass walls
He did,
in
I love that
animal
saying.
places,
I
that
love
people
it.
would really see what goes on.
and then they wouldn't want to.
And there's so many issues, underneath all of these
Absolutely.
stories we're sharing. And we're sharing, hopefully, the positive side of why we do what we do, why we're having this conversation. And
Exactly.
we welcome everyone to this journey. And
Yeah.
I think the other piece about food is people eat too much of everything anyway.
Yeah.
Even vegans. And the fact that you're a vegan doesn't mean you necessarily nail down your nutrition needs. I
Absolutely.
mean, you can be a carbo freak. I have to watch
Right.
that myself every now and then.
Well, potato chips are vegan.
Yeah,
So, you know what I
know.
mean? It's
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can be
yeah.
very unhealthy and
Right,
still be
and it's
vegan.
expensive, by the way, but the trade-off on saving against medical bills and hospital bills. It's worth it. We hear that. I heard a kid tell me that in Fairway recently because we were buying something exotic for the cookbook shoot, a vegetable that was like $8 a pound or something. Well, you're better off spending that $8 than giving it to the doctor. You know,
It's true.
You know, it's doing so. Those are small steps that people take.
Yeah. So that at the end of the day, Bart, at the very end of the day, what do you want people to take away when they think of Bart Potenza?
Including the part about why I address loving this food and eating this lifestyle and living this lifestyle. To me, the connection's a simple one. When you feel good, and I think that's in my book, life is a lot easier when you feel good. Because you feel like doing and being. And when you don't feel good, you don't want to be in life as much. You know? So it's a nice trade-off to make that connection that your lifestyle is making you a person who wants to be in life full out. And you know, the world as it is today, who knows what survival might have to go on, or talk about fear factor way back in the beginning. I think a lot of this might have an undercurrent of fear factor to it, meaning people are concerned about their survival.
Sure.
You know, health and well-being, because everyone's got a relative who's either had cancer or heart problems or some other diabetes. That's the big one.
Yeah.
The whole thing going on with obesity in our society and so on. You know.
So,
But I think that's
you're
the
out there fighting the fight.
Yeah, and like you probably picked up when you first met me, I feel like I'm my own example to me, and if someone else rubs off on someone, I'm grateful. I'm happy to share, and so does Joy, you know.
Well,
Thank
you've
you.
made an impact on me, and I'm so grateful that you had me here today.
Thank you,
So that
Brandy.
we can share your wonderful message.
Thank you. Congratulations and good luck with your endeavor here.
Thank you so
Very
much.
excited for you.
Thank you.